Early one morning, Percy arrived in the yard at Knapford to collect some trucks. He stopped next to where Diesel was shunting some trucks. "Your trucks are in that siding over there," Diesel said, glancing over at some trucks in a nearby siding. "Thank you, Diesel," Percy replied. He was about to chuff off and collect them when Diesel spoke again. "Percy, you should be careful. These trucks are the worst of a bad lot." "Don't worry, Diesel," Percy replied confidently. "I know how to handle trucks." But as he steamed off to collect the trucks, Percy couldn't help feeling a little bit worried. He'd never known Diesel to want another engine like that. Later that morning, Alice the Atlantic engine was being inspected at the works. Gordon had brought her back from London last night, and the workmen were making sure she was in top condition. They checked her cylinders and running gear, then the gauges and dials in her cab. Once they were done, the foreman came around to talk to Alice. "Alice, those volunteers did a good job of looking after you. We couldn't find anything that needed work." Alice couldn't help grinning. The now defunct Great Northern Railway Preservation Society had looked after her well.
"I'm glad to hear it,"
Alice replied. "All that's left now is a shakedown run, and you'll be ready to go."
"Okay, what did you have in mind?"
The foreman gestured towards the station at Croven's Gate. "There are some slate trucks waiting to be taken to the electric railway at Kildane. Henry was supposed to take them, but he already had enough on his morning freight from the other railway. I hope you don't mind taking trucks, Alice."
"Not at all,"
Alice replied. She was quickly steamed up and chuffed out of the works to pick up the trucks. As well as her driver and fireman, an inspector was riding in her cab. She quickly picked up the trucks and left, whistling a polite hello to Aeneas as she did so. Alice made good time along the line. Before long, Alice reached Kildane Station. She slowed as she crossed over to the branch line, passing an electric locomotive waiting on the turntable lead. She stopped her train at the station. The electric engine came alongside a moment later.
"Hello, I'm Alice,"
Alice said politely. "I'm Sean. Pleased to meet you, Alice. Are these for me?"
"Yes, they are."
Alice had already been uncoupled from the slate trucks, and she moved forward to clear the passing siding. She stopped on the crossover to the main line. She was to finish her run at the Knapford sheds. "We'll have to wait here for a bit," her driver said. "Gordon's due past with the express." Meanwhile, Percy had been having a hard time with his trucks. They'd bumped him at every opportunity, and that wasn't all. Their axles would run hot, and their brakes would slip on. Percy had already had to stop several times, and I'm afraid to say he was running out of patience. Not again! Percy exclaimed as he felt the train growing heavier behind him. He struggled on, but it was no good. Once again, his crew had to climb down and fix the brakes. Back at Kildane, Alice looked over as a familiar whistle sounded through the air. Gordon was racing down the line with the morning express. "Hello, Alice," he called as he passed. "Good to see you out and about." He was gone before Alice could reply. After a few minutes, Alice received clearance and proceeded out onto the main line. About 10 minutes later, Percy was approaching Wellsworth Station. His trucks were still pulling back, but Percy was giving it everything he had. "Come on, you stupid trucks," Percy called as they passed through Wellsworth. He soon reached Gordon's Hill, and he knew this would be the most difficult part of the journey. "Come on, you trucks, come on, you trucks," Percy chuffed as he ascended the hill. The only reply he got from the trucks was giggling. They knew they were wearing him down. At that moment, Alice was coming up the other side of Gordon's Hill, on the express line.
It sounds like that engine's really struggling,
she said to herself as she heard Percy's heavy chuffing. As she crested the hill, Alice caught sight of Percy and immediately realised what was going on.
"Keep going, don't let those trucks get the better of you,"
she called encouragingly as she passed Percy. The little green engine was too preoccupied to reply. He was just concentrating on getting his train over the hill. Suddenly, just as he was about to reach the top, there was a loud snap and the load on his coupler became lighter. He knew what that meant. "Bye-bye, Percy," taunted the trucks as they began rolling away down the hill. Alice gasped as the runaway trucks raced by her.
"Driver, we've got to stop those trucks."
The trucks giggled as they raced along the line, having thrown their guard free. Alice was quickly coming up behind, her wheels pounding the rails. Up ahead, Edward was waiting with a passenger train on the same line as the trucks. A horrified look crossed his face as he saw the trucks bearing down on him.
"I'm gaining,"
Alice exclaimed as she caught up to the trucks. She drew level with the brake van, and the inspector jumped over from her cab. He quickly applied the brakes. Alice glanced over as Edward breathed a sigh of relief.
"Are you alright?"
"Yes, I'm fine.
"My name's Alice."
Pleased to meet you. I'm Edward." Percy arrived a moment later, looking very worried. "Is anybody hurt?" he asked. "Not at all, thanks to Alice here," Edward replied.
"I just saw what needed to be done."
Alice replied modestly. "Well, thank you for stopping my trucks, Alice," said Percy.
"You're welcome."
Alice replied, and with that, the two engines went their separate ways.